Welcome, everybody. My name's Adrian Amandi. I host direct the Education Resource Center, and I'm going to give up the mic right away as we have one of our very own, our new adapted physical education teacher, Molly Armstrong, who joined us this school year as part of this presentation. So Molly, take it away.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Like Adrian said, I am Molly Armstrong, and I am the adapted physical education teacher at CSB. And I would like to introduce Dr. Lauren Lieberman and Lindsay Ball, who are here with us. So, Lauren, you can take it away now.
Sure. Thank you so much, Molly, for jumping right in. And I just want to say Molly's really impressed me because this is her first year as the teacher at CSB, and she's already jumping in doing all these professional developments, and we've been collaborating on a few things, so it's been really wonderful to work with her. So I am a distinguished service professor at SUNY Brockport in Brockport, New York, and I started my career at Perkins School for the Blind, and then I got my doctorate at Oregon State University, and I've been at SUNY Brockport since 1995. And in 1995, I started a sports camp called Camp Abilities. And I've been running that camp ever since. And now we have camps all over the country and all over the world. And actually last fall, I was fortunate to get a global Fulbright scholarship where I got to travel around the world and start Camp Abilities in different countries. So into Ghana and Ireland and Brazil. And luckily it was right before COVID hit. So we were really lucky to fit that in. But I'm really honored today to be with one of my graduate students, Lindsay Ball. And you'll see what Lindsay's specialty is, a lot of things, but we'll learn a little bit more about Lindsay in a little bit. But I do want to say I really appreciate everybody turning on their cameras. It's nice to see people's faces. I've been doing some professional development, and it always makes me happy to see people's faces or nodding or a thumbs up or just some kind of consensus, because it's really hard to speak to a screen when there's nobody there. So yes, again, thank you, everybody. And if you have a pressing question or if you want to add something to the conversation, please put it in the chat. And Amanda's going to keep track of that and help us. But we will have time for questions at the end. Okay. So I am going to share my screen. Can everybody hear me okay? You want to give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, good. So this is called Universal Design for Learning, Considerations for Providing Instruction in Home and School Settings. And so Universal Design for Learning, this is a picture of a class where the instructor is allowing some of the students to demonstrate, and they're doing the warm-up. And one of the students who's demonstrating has a disability. But Universal Design for Learning is instructional planning and delivery. It's a framework intended to increase meaningful access and reduce barriers to learning for all students, including those with diverse learning needs. I just want to make a point that UDL is not just for kids with disabilities. It's for all children, and that's what we have to remember. And I know some of you will probably agree with me that kids with visual impairments really don't like it when we make a modification just for them, because then they stand out even more than they already do. But if they're using a ball or a batting tee or a rule that's a rule for everyone, or an accommodation that everybody can use, they're a lot more accepted, and there's a lot less bullying we found in our research. So I want you to think about this. I want you to think about, sorry, I can't see now, this is in my way. You are the change agent. So you came to this presentation to learn about Universal Design for Learning. So how can you take what we're talking about today, if you're not already doing it? I don't want to assume you're not already implementing some of these aspects, but how can you also educate your peers if they're teaching and there are kids sitting on the sideline, or there are kids being marginalized or not performing to their best abilities? How can you educate the people that you teach with about what Universal Design for Learning is? So start with questions. So ask them, how are they making their curriculum accessible to all students? How are you making your curriculum accessible to all students? How are your students demonstrating their learning? How do they show you what they know or what they've learned? How are you delivering the information to meet the diverse range of student needs in your class? So just remember, the change agents are you. Right now is the time to shift the delivery and the way that you consider how to educate our students. Unfortunately, we hear every day parents or teachers talking about how their child goes to the weight room or they ride the exercise bike on the side. And especially with this remote learning, teachers don't even know what to do. So what they've been doing is just having the kids walk and keep track of their steps. But that's not teaching, and that's not meeting state standards. How are the kids going to learn all the state and national standards that are meant for them? So keep that in mind. I want you to think about your classes and how do you accommodate every child. And so to introduce this concept, I want to introduce Lindsay Ball, and she's going to be talking about the dignity of risk. So Lindsay is a master's student in our Adapted Physical Education Master's Program at Brockport. She's a Paralympic skier. She's an elite marathon runner, and she's a researcher, and she's been writing up a storm, and she's been very successful. And so I just wanted to introduce Lindsay, and I'm going to turn it on to her first slide, which is the definition of the dignity of risk. So now you're not, can somebody unmute Lindsay? Here we go, maybe I can. Can you unmute it, Lindsay?
Fall, now in.
Okay,
You're
there we
good.
go. So I'm trying to open my document on my phone so you guys don't have to hear voiceover. So give me a hot second. I wasn't quite fast enough.
No worries.
Lindsay, we do not mind hearing the screen reader as
Oh
you
my gosh.
belong during your
Well, it's just
presentation.
it's just gonna repeat everything. You don't need to hear that twice.
No problem waiting.
Thank you. So
It's early in California anyway.
You guys celebrating your after dinner party with coming to Tuesday tea. Thank you
That's right.
For your evening. We appreciate it.
all righty, it's opening. All right. No, open. No.
Oh, it always takes longer when you're staring at it.
I know.
From Allison Durham to everyone. Allison Durham, P.E. teacher.
Okay, here we go. All right, now I'm going to turn voiceover on because I don't want to hear everything. So here we go.
Zoom.us has new window.
We're just going to have an adventure today. All right. So the dignity of risk, it's a fairly new term, but the technical definition is the dignity afforded by risk-taking with subsequent enhancement of personal growth and quality of life. And that was by Lieberman and Davis, and they first did this research for elderly people in nursing homes, but I think it can be applied to everybody, especially students with disabilities in physical education. So that definition was pretty technical, but it really means that the belief in dignity of risk is that no matter age or ability, all individuals have the right to self-determination. So they have the right to make their own choices and evaluate their environment and kind of make decisions for themselves. And it's a strong belief in that taking reasonable risks is essential to one's dignity and sense of self. And the key word in there is reasonable. We don't want students doing anything that's actually really risky, but we all know that participating in physical education might have some risks. When I was student teaching, I had a kid get a bloody nose just because. So it happens. It can happen to a kid with a disability and without. So I'm a strong believer in that it's really important that we don't shelter our students. So they shouldn't be prevented from opportunities to participate in activities that others deem risky, because that devalues their human dignity, kind of what I just talked about. And so a balance must be established to keep the student safe while allowing them to participate in physical activities that may have reasonable risk. And I'm really passionate about this because I was excluded a lot from physical education activities because others thought that I was going to get hurt. So I think it's really important that we give students those opportunities. So we can go next to barriers.
Got it.
Perfect. So the first barrier could be the disability itself. So teachers have students with disabilities in their classes, but they may not, it may be different disabilities. They may not have an awareness or be comfortable with the disability itself. And so they don't really know how to accommodate those specific learning needs. And Siri thought I was talking to her. Oh my goodness. Thank you for bearing with me. And a big topic in the research lately is a lack of inclusion training for teachers, for physical education teachers. So the research has been telling us that physical education teachers don't necessarily feel comfortable teaching students with disabilities just based on their practicums and their student teaching in their PE program. So that's also a barrier that we're encountering. And then we have liability concerns. So sometimes we have a fear that a student's going to get hurt, something's going to go wrong, and we're in schools and there could be liability. You never know what could happen. And then the last one that I've come up with is a fear of backlash from parents. So some people may be concerned that if they make the wrong choice, parents are going to be upset. And that's a very valid concern, but I think that it could be overcome. And then we have other. So if you're watching this presentation and you think you have some ideas of what also could be a barrier, feel free to put that in the chat and we'll come up with it now or at the end. And then we can go to practical considerations.
Got it.
Thank you. So I've come up with, it's about 6 steps that can help us as physical education teachers and any teacher in any class figure out how to encourage students to have the dignity of risk. So the first one is to come up with any contraindications for any students in your class. So do any students have a shunt or detached retina or exercise-induced asthma? Those are just some examples. I'm sure all of you can come up with some other ones. So just being aware of those concerns and considerations so you know what you can plan for. Then the next step is to analyze the activity for any possible risks for any of the students. So what could happen to anybody? And then once you have that list of the possible risks, then brainstorm ideas of how you could limit the risk or control it. So kind of what modifications can you make? Could you use a softer ball? Things like that. And if you're really unsure, you can reach out to IEP, there we go, team members for the student that may have the disability or the extra concern. If you have any questions or assistance, they're your friends. They're your best bet. They know the student too. And then you would want to provide the student with a clear, concise explanation of the activity, the possible risks, and the modifications that you want to put in place. So this gives them a clear understanding of what is expected in the activity, what's expected of them, and they can make that informed choice of if they want to participate, how they want to participate, and they may have ideas for extra modifications that you or the IEP team didn't think of. And then the last step is to utilize universal design for learning, which is why we're all here. So that's about it.
Thank you, Lindsay. And I just wanted to thank Lindsay because one of the biggest barriers that we always hear from physical education teachers is they don't want the kids to get hurt. But they're not giving the child, like Lindsay said, the opportunity to take the risks, reasonable risks to get hurt, and giving them the same opportunity to get hurt as their peers. And I couldn't always put the name to it and explain it this well, but Lindsay did a really good job of explaining it. We just had a paper accepted to our national journal for physical education, and we're going to continue to work in this area. Lindsay's thesis is all on dignity of risk and self-determination, because this is so important, because we can't continue to marginalize kids. When they get out of school, they have to learn how to make decisions for themselves and not have somebody else make it for them. And that's where Universal Design for Learning comes in. We have to teach the kids what are the variables and options available to them. So Universal Design for Learning guidelines. So Universal Design for Learning, it focuses on the why, what, and how of learning. So it's essential when we're delivering instruction, for example, on the computer, remotely, and it's essential when students return to school after a wide range of experiences, like after the summer. Kids go to a summer camp and they say, oh, I can do all these sports. And then the teacher says, oh, no, you can't. I don't want you to get hurt. But they just did all those sports in the summer. And it's essential when you're teaching face-to-face. So we just wanted to make sure we talked about accommodations for everybody. Okay, so oh wait, I'm going to back up for 1 second, and I'm just going to reiterate on this engagement. The word engagement, multiple means of engagement, is the first approach, and that is, how do you get the kids excited? How do you motivate the kids? So I think of engagement as motivating them and challenging them. They're not going to remain in the lesson or engaged if you don't do something to pull them in. And then representation, it's the what of learning. That's instruction. How do you teach? And what are the multiple ways that you teach so that every learning style is accommodated? And then the third way is providing multiple means of action and expression. And I think of this as, how do we assess what they know? It doesn't have to be a formal assessment. It just has to be an assessment of what they know and what they've learned in your class. Okay. So a lot of this information comes from CAST, which is it's the National Universal Design for Learning Education site. And they have actually this, it's this framework. It's called the framework. And so there's one line that says engagement, representation, action, and expression. So under engagement, there's recruiting interest and various ways to recruit interest, sustaining effort and persistence, which is like their challenge, and then self-regulation, which is a big buzzword of, if I get really excited, how am I going to be able to rein it in and know when I'm getting over the top? Representation, I'm sorry, can somebody else admit people? Because I can't do both things at once. Does anybody else do the admitting? Ah, shoot.
We'll handle it. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So representation is like options for perception. How do they perceive what they need to learn? Understanding language and symbols. So whether it's a demonstration, whether it's a poster, whether it's video, how are they understanding what they are to learn? And how do they comprehend the skill or the activity and what's expected of them? And then the last area is action and expression. It can be physical action, and provide different options for doing it physically. How do they communicate what they know, whether it's a drawing, whether it's a demonstration, whether it's answering a question, a picture like on a PEX board, and then provide options for executive function. So helping them with their goal setting, and then support with their planning where they're going to go from there. And if you, I'm not here to promote our book, but we wrote a whole book on Universal Design for Learning. We applied this whole framework to physical education. This framework right now is applied to just the classroom. But if you look at our book, we kind of modified this just for physical education. So it would be a little more applicable. But this is my modified version. I'm just going to kind of apply this directly to us. So under engagement, principle 1, this is what stimulates the students' interests and motivating them for learning in a variety of ways. So let me give you some examples. So as a teacher, you distribute as much equipment as possible and a variety of equipment. Excuse me. So it's not just a regulation volleyball. It's a trainer volleyball. It's a gator ball. it's a beach ball, it's balloons, and maybe balls with bells in them to help maximize their opportunities to respond. So if every child has a piece of equipment, they have more turns. And then you can also modify the games and rules to address the multiple learning domains. And remember, this is for all students. And so we're not saying, oh, you're blind, here's the ball with the bells, only Lindsay can use it, everybody else has to get out of the way. I mean, Lindsay's going to be mortified and she's going to hate coming to physical education. And so this is the other thing. We've done research and it's shown that kids without disabilities can use modified equipment that's modified for kids with visual impairments, and they get the same skill results. So their scores on a skill assessment are the same when they use that beeping ball, when they bat that ball off a tee, or when they catch a wiffle ball with bells in it. They get the same score. So then representation is principle two. Again, this is instruction. How does the teacher present information and the course content in multiple formats so all the students learn? I know for me, I'm at a standing desk right now and it's really hard for me to even stay still. I need to move. So when I am learning something, I need to be able to engage in it. I need to be able to try it. Some students are auditory learners, some students are visual learners, some students need short cues. I also need short cues, very short instruction. And so some examples are like, again, audio, visual, kinesthetic, and then approaches specific to the needs. Like maybe if your child is blind, they might need tactile modeling, which is physical assistance. You can also give physical assistance to other kids if they need it, if they need some support. So utilizing a variety of teaching strategies will help everybody understand what you're teaching. So like if you're teaching yoga, you're gonna say it, you're gonna show a video of it, you're gonna allow students to demonstrate it, not just the students who are able-bodied, any student, girls, boys, kids with and without disabilities. And that really pulls the kids in. And then the last one, again, action and expression, is how do you assess them? Understanding that there are multiple avenues to students perform their global learning objectives. So just allowing for a variety of skills that meet their particular learning outcomes, recognize that students' abilities will be different, and allowing kids to show you what they know in a variety of ways. Like we were calling it mild, medium, and spicy. And so, for example, mild might be you pull a jump rope across the floor and the kids are jumping across, forward, back, sideways. Medium might be they're bringing the jump rope over their head and they're stepping over the jump rope. I am doing medium, I'm getting hot, it's getting hot. And then spicy might be I'm doing a jump rope, I'm doing it to a song, and I'm trying to do as many as I can. So every level is acceptable. And I hate to say it, but oftentimes you think, oh, the mild, that's only for the kids with disabilities. I got these kids, they never used a jump rope in their life. For whatever reason it is, they don't know how to jump rope. We don't have to want to put them in that category. And I have kids who are blind. I was in Beijing and I went to the school for the blind in Beijing, and these kids were out there jumping together with two people jumping rope better than I've ever seen any sighted person doing it. So you can't really label a person mild, medium, or spicy according to their ability, perceived ability. So I am going to show you, we've been working with, it's called the National Center on Health Physical Activity for Individuals with Disabilities. It's called NICPAD. And I'm going to show you this video. We just finished this video. And because it was during COVID, we had to do it. You'll see there's not really kids in it. No, I can't. Here, I'm going to do it here. Okay. So this is just a short video on what is UDL for physical education.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus now bundled together. The greatest stories and characters, the largest streaming TV library, and
this is not what I just copied and pasted, is it? Wait one sec. I do love that song. Here we go.
Universal Design for Learning in Physical Education. So what is universal design for learning? Every student learns and is motivated by different things, depending on their background, experience, successes, and interests. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, supports the various ways that students receive, process, and express information. For example, a teacher may have second graders chase bubbles for a warm-up with music. Some students may find this challenging and fun. Others may find it dull and boring with no challenge. Yet some may be terrified of the noise, crowd, and running into people. This is where UDL comes in. Universal Design for Learning directs the creation of the learning experiences to proactively meet the needs of all students. The three main components of UDL. Multiple means of representation is the what of learning, how the information is given to students. Giving information to students is just the first part. Showing the material in many different ways ensures that all students will be able to make sense of the content. For example, you can use students for demonstration, show a video of the skill or sport practice, or demonstrate the skill or activity yourself, with the students verbally following along. Multiple means of engagement is the why of learning. The first thing to consider in this area is reducing students' discomfort and distraction, and urging each student to take risks without being forced out of their comfort zone. Utilizing strategies to get students excited about learning, to help them sustain interest in learning tasks, and to know and regulate themselves. Multiple means of action and expression is the how of learning. How can you assess what the students know? How physical action can be incorporated? How levels of support can be added? How knowledge and skills can be expressed? In this area, give options for students to express what they know and can do. For example, when assessing how fast students can run, you can allow them to choose the distance and the way they want to run, who they want to run with, the music that is playing, and the goals that they set. Help students set goals, manage information, and teach students how to monitor their progress toward learning goals. Unique and important features of UDL. Universal design starts in the lesson planning phase. It's not something that is added after the lesson is created. The variations are embedded into the lessons from the start. The universally designed options are for every student, not just students with disabilities or those on 504 plans. For example, when teaching striking, give students choice for equipment or how to strike. Have high expectations for all students. Generalization of UDL. It is important for students to learn the curriculum using the UDL approach. It is important to remember that the students should also learn the traditional equipment and rules for each sport and activity. By learning the traditional equipment and rules, the students know what they need to advocate for when they are involved in community programming. So now you know the basics of UDL. Try it out yourself.
Uh-oh. So that's a little example of what is universal design for learning. And if you go to that NICPAD website in the next few weeks, we just made a UDL 101 that you can access for free. They do a great job. And this video is also for free from NICPAD. Okay. And so Molly's going to now, she's going to take it away and talk about some more specific examples for our kids with visual impairments.
Perfect. So in this slide, we have a photo of two students eating lunch and they have big smiles on their face. They look like they're having a lot of fun. And the question here is, how do we motivate our students and how are you motivating your students? So like we've been talking about, challenges are really important, having those challenges prepared as well. So if a student does look like they might need something a little bit more challenging, you have that ready and you're ready to give that to them. You could also have preferences or rewards. So when a student does achieve something, maybe they have a sticker or a pencil or a food that they really like. And also music is important. We have the example here of Ariana Grande, but some pop culture incorporating some music. And this example at the bottom is almost like a form of social media. So it's called Flipgrid. And it's students can create videos and post them on there. So you as the teacher could go in, maybe see what they know. They could create a video of a certain skill or a certain movement. And then they would be able to take a video of themselves and post it so you could go back and look at it, or maybe their peers could go. And also on the Flipgrid website, there are a lot of different examples of how to incorporate it based on different age levels. So as K-5 or middle school or high school, they do a really good job of incorporating different ways that you could have your students doing that.
Molly, you brought up a good point, because a lot of times if you underestimate a student, and let's say you give the student the 10-pound weight and you have the 20-pound weight in the closet, but you didn't put it out for this group, and then you say, oh wow, you can lift that, wow, I'm going to go get the 20. They're incensed. They're like, well, you didn't think I could do that. And it's really embarrassing. I mean, I've had that happen. I mean, because I'm short and people just think you can't do certain things. And so that's a really good point, to make sure that you're prepared for that range. I'm going to use that. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. And on this next slide, we have a photo of a student using a tactile map for bowling. So getting prepared to go up and start bowling at the alley. And our question is how we teach and provide materials to students. How are we doing this? So what learning platforms are we using in school? And also making sure that you have Zooms or large print, maybe images around your gym of certain movements or certain sports, how to throw a ball, how to kick a ball, maybe a jumping jack, and even just a few little notes about steps on there as well. You could also have students demonstrate or use students and yourself to demonstrate. And songs with cues are important. And there's an app that I've used a couple of times called Seconds Pro. And you get to use your music and it creates an interval timer. So if you're doing stations or maybe a Tabata type fitness, you can set it up where the timer goes off and it'll say rotate stations or stop, maybe give it a couple of seconds for a break, and then it'll tell you when to continue. The only downfall with this app is you can only use iTunes or Apple Music with it. So if you are not an iTunes user and you only use Spotify or Pandora, it might not be the best suggestion, but worth a try, and it's not that expensive either. And then on here also we have Super Mario. So maybe that is something that a student is interested in. And this is a video of a Mario character dressed up, and there's some other things coming at them like bananas, and they're standing there and they're punching at them. So getting the students to use something that they like or they're interested in, and also incorporating movement and fitness into that.
All right.
And for this one, how do we assess what students know? So we have a photo of some mats stacked up with some hula hoops in them, maybe using it as a basketball hoop. And then there are also two students bowling and practicing rolling a bowling ball. So maybe we are using computer or a PEX board for students to point at something or show us what they have learned. And you could also use verbal or sign description. So they could explain to you what they are doing, what the movement is, maybe a critical element, or signing that to you. And also a physical demonstration as well. So they are showing you what they know, explaining it to maybe. You could also have photo choices, maybe of different movements, putting them in order of how you kick a ball or how you throw the ball. And a lot of variations in performance. So maybe we change the distance, we adjust the equipment, a bigger ball or a smaller ball. They could change the speed or even adjust the skill a little bit to test their knowledge.
Right. Thank you, Molly.
Yes, thank you.
And then this just is is a slide that shows a straight line, a zigzag line, a curved line, kind of to elaborate what Molly was saying is giving kids choices. How do you want to kick the ball? So if I'm dribbling the ball and I'm new at it, I'm just going to go straight and I'm not going to use cones and I'm not going to try any fancy moves. But maybe now I get a defender or I go around cones, so you get to choose how you want to execute the skill. And that's part of Universal Design for Learning. So this is a cute video, and this is a student, like many of our students, he has multiple disabilities. And this is just a student, and he's dancing in his chair, in his wheelchair. You see his hands, they move, they're doing the Macarena. So I'll show that again. So everybody has their own style, and everybody in the class is doing the Macarena to their best ability, and that student's doing it to his best ability. And this next video, I'm just going to show a part of it. This is a video that a teacher made, and it uses all the components of universal design, and it's related to juggling.
Hi girls and boys, my name is Miss Nelson. Today, I'm going to teach you how to do some super cool juggling moves with things that you probably already have in your own home. On the table in front of me, I have 2 pieces of tissue paper, 2 plastic bags, 2 napkins, 2 bandanas, and 2 scarves.
So there's a lot of
choices. If you don't have any of
choices.
the equipment that I just mentioned, that's okay. You can find something in your own home that floats to the ground and has 2 different colors. I'm going to give you some skill cues that you need to learn before we start adding our equipment, and it'll help us when we're ready to juggle. We're going to start off by imaginary pinching our object. I'm going to pretend that I'm holding my plastic bag. I pinch the very middle of it, bring it down to my pocket, toss across my body, keeping the top of my hand facing the ceiling. Let go, catch, and then roar like a lion. Let's try it all together. Pinch, pocket, toss across, catch, and roar.
So it's also
Pinch,
written across the bottom
pocket,
of the video,
toss
so
across,
kids have
catch,
multiple means
and roar.
of gaining the
Awesome
information.
job, boys and girls. Do you think you can read with me? Pinch, pocket.
And
What
she
comes
has a
next?
sign that says pinch and pocket.
Toss across
And toss
our
across.
body, and then catch and roar with the opposite hand. Good job. Do you think you're ready to add some equipment? I'm going to start off with my plastic bag. I pinch in the middle, bring it to my pocket, toss across my body, catch and roar. Try it with the other hand this time. Pinch, pocket, toss across, catch and roar.
And so she just continues with that lesson and builds on it until she's literally kind of juggling 2 pieces of either bags or scarves. And so if you want to watch this on your own, you can, or you can use this, but it's a really wonderful video that builds on itself. So I'm just going to reiterate what we talked about. We're going to give you a couple more examples. So remember that all students can learn with UDL. And the 2 major things is you do this during the lesson planning. It's not an afterthought. You have to consider the whole class, the whole heterogeneous class that you're working with. And it combines multiple means of representation, multiple means of engagement, and multiple means of expression throughout the class. And they do overlap. Sometimes, if you're doing a really good job of representation of teaching, it is engaging. It's challenging. If you're going to use the kids for demonstration, they're always like, pick me, so that can be very motivating. I mean, I don't know how many of you remember this, but I remember all the times that my PE teacher in elementary school had me demonstrate for the class or pick me for this or that. So I'm sure that's a memorable experience for everybody. So I'm just going to give an example of this climbing wall. So let's say you're doing a wall climbing unit, and this is something you really have to plan way ahead of time, of course, if you're going to do rock climbing. But on the right-hand side of this wall are very small, like rocks that are placed much closer together, and it's straight up. And the left side of this wall, the rocks are placed much further apart. They're much less uniform in shape, and they're further apart. So obviously the right-hand side is much easier than the left-hand side. So this can be a universally designed lesson in itself. But if I really wanted to universally design this lesson, I would use this traverse wall, which is only about 6 feet, or that's probably about 7 feet high. And then the kids can walk across the wall. And there are some obstacles that they can go around, like some pool noodles and some scarves that are sticking out, and some things that they can, like horns that they can squeeze. But the traverse wall is a great option for kids who might be afraid of heights, who maybe don't have a lot of strength or stamina to go on the wall where you're climbing higher. And then just to get the kids ready, and I also think this next one's a really good opportunity for kids that when you have a big class, this is just to get the kids warmed up, and they're just like, it's like those stepping stones on the floor. And so there's a silhouette of a foot and a hand and these stepping stones, and you can say put the right hand on the purple, the left hand on the yellow, put the left hand on the next marker. And so the kids can learn how to do opposite hand and opposite foot to warm up to do the climbing wall, where they're reaching up with their right hand, their left hand, and their feet. And so if you don't have these, you can literally you can cut out pieces of Dysum, or you can actually cut out like placemats and things like that to make markers for the floor. Okay, now Molly's going to talk to us about some of the soccer examples that we have here.
Yeah, so coming back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, what Lauren talked about with engagement, representation, and action expression. So for engagement, having that option of a soccer ball. So maybe in the pile of soccer balls, you have a smaller ball, a bigger ball, a standard ball, a bell ball, and having that choice for all students and not just the ones that have disabilities, because every student can benefit from having a different type of soccer ball. Maybe they get the choice of picking a team or a partner for that day who they want to work with, and even a music preference, which I think we've mentioned a lot, but maybe there's a student who really is motivated by music and they want to pick the music that day. Maybe they get to choose a preferred skill, working on distance or accuracy. And then this is a really fun idea. If you are working on shooting goals, you could put cutouts, cardboard cutouts or pictures of a character that the student might like. So the examples on here are Frozen, Star Wars, or SpongeBob. And so now the student is trying to kick the ball at their character, or even passing it to them. You could put it on a cone also. For representation, either having a teacher or a peer demonstration or a mix of both, and also having videos playing too. So showing videos that the student can relate to. So maybe that's five-a-side soccer, CP soccer, or power soccer. And talking about some role models too. I know something that is really important is having role models, maybe posters around the gym or talking about them, male and female role models, professional or high school that's in the local area, and talking about those sports too, or how they could go to a game and participate in that. And also having closed captioning when you are having a video playing so that all students are able to access it. And for action and expression, so what are the ways that the students can show us what they know? How do we know what they have learned? So a lot of different ways to show kicking ability. Maybe you do have a target, maybe they get to kick to a peer, or maybe they're dribbling and then kicking. So having those challenges ready, and also, again, being prepared for those and what the student might pick. And having a different size targets. Maybe they're farther away, they're closer, or how is the student going to get by the defender, for having that option too. And lastly, so what are all the different ways that they can show our knowledge? Maybe they're going over rules, strategies, scoring. They could be telling us about it, or they could be showing us how to do this.
Thank you, Molly. Those are some really good examples. And, you know, things like soccer. Right now, we don't have a lot of role models for five-a-side soccer because the US is just starting to have five-a-side soccer, but we do have a lot of Paralympic track stars, Paralympic goalball players, cyclists, swimmers, and of course our own Paralympic skier of Lindsey Ball. So making sure that we get the names of some, and maybe even some posters of some role models that are Paralympians or elite athletes like Eric Weinmeier. I have a poster of him in my office. So our last slides are going to be related to resources. And again, people can jump in because I'm sure that people are using a lot of really cool resources. And so the American Printing House for the Blind has a lot of really cool equipment, and there's more coming. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But this is called a soccer trainer. And when we've been teaching five-a-side soccer, we've been putting the Bell soccer ball in this, like you put the Velcro around your waist, then you can kick the ball and you don't have to chase after it because it comes right back to you because it's on an elastic. And these aren't very expensive. And we bought one for every child that came to our virtual camp so the kids could practice soccer at home, which is great. Some of the places we get equipment is pet stores. You can get a lot of auditory, squishy, light, bouncy, bright equipment at pet stores. It's way cheaper than when you get it from an equipment company. Just don't tell anybody where you got it. US Games has a lot of really great bright equipment, a variety of equipment, bell balls, like they have mini goal balls. US Games is a great company. USABA sells goal ball kits. And then Molly was talking about that a lot of her students use Fitbits and Apple watches, and a lot of our kids are now tracking their equipment with Fitbits and Apple Watches. Molly, did you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so using a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, it's not like as a replacement to APE class or PE class, it's more of an addition. So a few students do have them and they use them to track their steps or keep themselves accountable or see their heart rate during class and kind of be aware of that. But it's not as a replacement to PE class. It's just an added thing that some of them have.
That's a good point, right? And then just some online resources. There's a lot more than this. We're just giving you some of the ones that are the most common that we've used. So NWABA is a Northwest Association for Blind Athletes. They're located in Vancouver, Washington, but they provide sport programming for kids with visual impairments in Oregon, Washington, Montana, and Idaho. Great organization. But if you go to their website, they've got some really nice videos and good resources. Our website for campabilities.org, if you go under instructional materials, we have tons of videos for every sport, how to modify it for kids with visual impairments, tennis, volleyball, beep baseball, so many different sports. But we also have instructional videos related to motor skills and the ECC. How do you infuse the ECC into physical activity? Just lots of really good videos on the campabilities.org website. And then aph.org also has equipment and books and curricula, and it's free. And now almost all the books from APH now are free downloads. So I encourage everybody to go on their downloads, and you can get a lot of almost all their books, like I said, are free downloads. Perkins.org has some great training materials, and now they have a lot of new material on cortical visual impairment, CVI. So look to Perkins for some of that material. A Texas School for the Blind also has videos and resources as well. And then NCPAD, NCHPAD, if you go to ncpad.org and put in Universal Design for Learning, you'll get a lot more information about UDL. And then also, I can't say enough about Human Kinetics. Human Kinetics published our book, Strategies for Inclusion. It's our 3rd edition. We just published a book called Universal Design for Learning that we encourage you to purchase if you don't have one. But also, Human Kinetics, we published a book called Physical Education for Children with Moderate and Severe Disabilities. And my guess is most of us teach kids with moderate and severe disabilities. So if your school doesn't have that book, it's a great resource to teach kids with moderate and severe disabilities. And that's through Human Kinetics as well. So again, we're coming back to you as the change agents. Now you're all experts in UDL. So again, how can you educate your peers? How are you making your curriculum accessible for all students? What of of all these variables, what are you doing? How are your students demonstrating their learning? And how are you delivering the information to meet the diverse range of students that your students need? And then also think about your peers that you teach with. How are they implementing universal design for learning? And it's okay if people don't really know. I have teachers that I've worked with and they show me everything that they did to universally design their lesson. But when they're in front of the kids, they forgot. They're not used to it. They're not used to having this variety of equipment or this variation in rules. You put that tape on the floor in the volleyball court for a reason, so that the kids could serve from different distances from the net. Don't forget that. So making sure you implement it and give the kids a chance to try all the different variables and accommodations. And so again, what ways do you show the 3 areas of UDL in your units? And so does anybody want to share anything that you're doing right now? I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Oh, there's a lot of chats. Did anybody have any? Oh, dollar store. That's a really good point. The dollar store. PBS Learning Media is a good one too. Oh yeah, slowing down the instructions is a really good idea. Seconds Pro. Oh, you can use Seconds Pro with Spotify. That's good to know. Seconds Pro. Flipgrid. People gave some good links. Thanks, everybody. So if you want to look in the chat bar, there's a lot of good links in there. We can definitely share this PowerPoint for sure. Okay. And Sally said that by providing so many choices, it empowers each learner in their process. Oh, good. Thanks for putting the link in there to our moderate and severe book, May. Cool. And the last thing I just wanted to share today is the fact that Camp Abilities is going to be having a virtual camp in February. If you teach children with visual impairments, if they're 4 years old to 22 years old, if they speak English, and they're available during the school day, East Coast time from like 8 to 5 p.m., they can join our virtual program. We're starting it in February, but they're going to meet with college students for an hour every week. And it's called the Personal Best Program, where they're working on their personal best. And they are going to showcase and share their successes and their achievements on our Facebook page. And then we're going to have a closing ceremonies in May. So it literally goes the whole semester. Our students get their professional development practicum, and the students get to work one-on-one with the college student and improve on whatever sports and fitness that they want to work on. So if anybody has students that you think would be interested, we really need, because I teach a class called Physical Education for Children with Sensory Impairments, and they have a 30-hour practicum, and I don't have a way to give them the practicum because of COVID. But this would be a great way. It's win-win for the kids and for my students. And it would just be really fun for them to be one-to-one, and they'll get a lot of attention from this college student, and they can work on whatever they want. So it's campabilities.org, and you can sign up through our website, and we encourage you just to send your students our way. All right. Any other questions, or anybody want comments you want to add to what we already said? You can also unmute your mic if you want to talk instead of type.
I was just wondering if you have any suggestions how to approach the general ed teachers who, I mean, some of it is, you know, the whole general ed program needs changing in some way. So what's the best, like, you know, strategy to suggest changes that won't insult anybody?
That's a really good question. I first just want to address, so in case people have to leave, campabilities.org is our website for our camp. The summer camp is free for kids in New York, but if a child from California were to come to our camp, it would cost them money unless it's virtual. But the virtual camp in February is free. That goes February to May, that's free. Yeah, and so basically, if the kids want to do an activity that they don't have the equipment for, if they have to get the equipment or borrow it, they might have to do that. That's all. Okay. Yeah, campabilities.org. And that's our website. And it should have the application for our February camp. And you can also register for our Campabilities on our website there as well, for the one in New York. And well, our camp is at the end of June, beginning of July. Okay, so to answer your question, okay, so you have a classroom teacher and they're not including all the kids and they're not using universal design. What do you do? And I know this is a really hard question, especially if it's a seasoned teacher and you are a newer teacher, which is typically what happens. And what I try to do is just pinpoint 1 or 2 things they are doing well and give them feedback and kudos for that 1 or 2 things they're doing well. And then maybe make a couple of recommendations or tell them something that you did. Oh, when I was teaching that, I did it this way. Have you ever tried that? But I know it's really touchy, especially if the person thinks they're already a good teacher. Sometimes they don't recognize when the kids are sitting on the side or they've had 1 turn and the other kids have had 6 turns. It just doesn't always register. I sometimes will videotape the class and show them the videotape and say, hey, you know, do you want to see what our child has done? I mean, it's really a tough situation when that happens. But I mean, without going to the supervisor and having the supervisor tell them, you know, that's something that you have to do. But I just think giving them feedback on what they are doing well is the best case scenario.
Can I jump in on one suggestion?
Sure, Lindsay.
Okay, so this actually stuck from one of Dr. Lieberman's classes that I took last semester, I don't know, a couple of semesters ago. There, a current APE teacher Skyped in. I don't remember who it was or where they were from, but one of the ideas that they had was, it was in a PE setting, but kind of just offering to co-teach a lesson. And so the APE teacher in that instance did universal design. So just that modeling of what the other teacher should be doing. So they kind of just see it. They didn't necessarily come up with it, but they saw it. It was happening, and kind of maybe that would register. So you're not telling them how to do something, but you're just indirectly showing them.
That's a really good idea. So you did learn something in that class, Lindsay?
I did.
Oh, so NWABA has some free workouts. That's great to know. BORP is offering activities. Yeah, you guys have a lot going on over there too. Okay, so Allison's asking, so when you go to our website, how do they register for the virtual program? Right now, we're just having you email our grad students. You say the name, the age, the level of visual impairment, and the contact information for your child. It's pretty simple since it's online. We're just going to make a list of our students and the kids who are signing up and pair them up. And then when we have our opening ceremonies, we're having Paralympians and we're going to do one sport, and then it's going to be like the kickoff, and then they're going to go on with their partner. So basically it's not very extensive because we don't need to have like their emergency contact information or any of that kind of thing, and it doesn't cost any money. But we'll probably be asking them what sports do they want to do to make sure they have everything they need when we start the program. So does that help? So they just email our grad students. So the you know what, I'm going to share my screen for a second. Let me do that. I'm going to share my screen, and if we go to the Campabilities website. So if we go to Campabilities website, you'll see that, so this says, these are our summer dates for our camp. And if you want to register for our summer camp, you can go to the home page and then go under registration. you would go under registration here, registrations right here, and then you would go under athlete. That's for the summer program. But for the personal best program that we were just talking about, this is the advertisement for our Capabilities Brockport Personal Best Program. Please, I need 38 participants minimum for this program. Right now we have 5. And so if you see this website right here, or this email right here, capabilitiesbrockport01@gmail.com, that's our graduate students that are running the program. capabilitiesbrockport01@gmail.com. They're just going to ask your student for their demographic information, their contact information, and what sports they're interested in, and we're going to match them up with our students. But this is just a great way for your child to get like a lot of one-to-one attention and see what their potential is. And I'm just going to say, unfortunately, I have seen a lot of children, particularly children with visual impairments and multiple disabilities, be extremely marginalized during this time of COVID, because it's hard enough to get to able-bodied kids in this medium. And the teachers feel like if they're getting to 50%, 75%, they're doing a good job. And our kids are the ones on the fringes. And if they're doing their steps and they're getting their heart rate up, people feel satisfied. But the problem is they're not learning the skill development. And they're missing at least this entire year of skill development. What's that going to do to their participation in sport, their self-esteem, their confidence? And unfortunately, the bullying increases as kids' skills become further, as they become further from their peer skills, that's when bullying increases. And Lindsay and I know that from some of the research that we're doing right now. So I just encourage you, if you know, and they also get to pick whatever time they want, the sports they want, the times they want to meet. If it's better on a weekend or an evening, our students will accommodate their needs. Okay, so does that answer? I hope that answers the question. So it's just capabilities.org, and you go right on the front website, and there's this flyer, and it tells you what to do. And if you want to share this with parents, please do. If they have questions, they can ask me. And we just really hope that people take advantage of it, because it's going to be a really fun program. And especially since the kids are going to get to go on social media and share all their successes, because that's another part of the ECC that is part of their assistive technology that they'll be participating in. The sessions can be, it depends. Like if we have a child that's 4, we're going to probably have 2 half-an-hour sessions a week. But if you have an older student that can engage longer, maybe it'll be an hour and 15 minutes a week. My students have to get a minimum of 15 hours during the semester, and I'm hoping they get more with their child during the course of the Personal Best program. I just made this program up, and I'm really hoping it's successful, because we could do it every year, because we don't need money, and we don't need, I mean, you just use whatever equipment the child has. And so it's just a win-win. So I have really great students, and then we have kids out there that need to be taught some of these very specific skills that they aren't really getting at their schools. Yes, Personal Best is free, virtual and individual one-to-one, February to May. It would be weekly lessons if that's possible. Yeah, so the time involvement for each week would be an hour minimum, 1 hour minimum. They can go longer for sure. And if the child wants more time, I can give them 2 of my students. They could have an hour with each one, twice a week even. It's a great idea. I hope it's a great idea. It's only going to be a great idea if people sign up for it. Send me your students. Other questions or ideas? Oh, so Karen asked, is camp during the school day? They can pick whatever time they want, so whenever they're free. And so, for example, what if they want to do it before their school starts? It's 9 o'clock our time, or it's 10 o'clock our time and 7 o'clock their time. They want to do it 7 a.m. and our student says, all right, I'm free at 10. So they'll work out the time with the student that they're working with. It's their choice. And so they just work with the student with the college student that they're working with, and they create the time that they're going to do it every week. It might even be a weekend, and that's fine too. Yeah. Oh, and if you can share it, yes, if you can share it with your listserv Summer in Washington, that would be terrific. Put the information out on Braille and Teach for sure. Oh, cool. A new student that's blind. Thank you, Cindy. Yes, please give it to him. Oh, okay. Karen brought up a good point. I'm going to let kids sign up with their friends if they want. So let's just say, I mean, I don't want to encourage kids to be together because I don't know their situation related to COVID. But let's just say two kids are really good friends and they want to be on the Zoom together. That's great because that's going to increase socialization. So if you have a small group of kids that has the same time open, I can have maybe 2 or 3 of my students be in a group on the Zoom together, and they could do it at the same time every week. Let's say Friday afternoon at 3, 6 o'clock our time. Maybe they'll, before they go out to the bar, maybe they'll do it before they go out for the weekend. Yeah, that would be good. So it can be a small group of students, yes. And then the other thing is, so can a sibling be involved? As a matter of fact, we encourage the kids to have somebody at home with them so that they can practice those skills other times than when they're in the Zoom. And also some of the kids might need help. Like if you're learning goal ball and you're practicing rolling and diving and stopping, you're going to need somebody to work with you. So we do encourage them to have a sibling, a friend, a parent with them. Okay. Oh, yes, please send out to the California Association of O&M Specialists. That would be great. Yes, so I said the age could be from 4 years old to 22. And so like I just said, if a child's in pre-K, they probably would definitely need somebody with them. And I also think their sessions might be shorter, so we might have to do it twice a week. Or maybe just go a little longer than May, you know, just to get the hours in. But I just think this is such a conducive program for the little ones. It's not too early to start working on motor skills. As a matter of fact, that's every single study we do shows that we have to do more pre-K teaching for the young kids. Because those foundational skills are harder to learn later on. Okay. Good questions. And if you have any suggestions, I mean, like I said, this is the first time we're doing our Campabilities Personal Best program. So any ideas or suggestions, I'd be welcomed. Hallelujah. Thank you, Sally.
Lauren, thank you so much. Obviously, through the comments and the chats, it's not unusual that these sessions are talky in the chats and not so much with people opening up their mics, which for all of you in attendance in the future, you're welcome to open up your mics. But I really appreciate it. Just the sheer number of people who showed up today. This is an important topic. And we are happy to promote it at the California School for the Blind as often as we see fit. So if you have grad students with wonderful topics, whether it's through this Tuesday Tea or other webinars, that we can get the word out through California and the Northwest and wherever else we have an impact, we are happy to do that. You have a extremely good message. Lindsay, Molly, thank you very much for your professionalism. Very excited about the term dignity of risk and bringing it to our population. It's more than just PE. It's experiencing and living and being. Very excited, and we are very blessed to have Molly on our staff. So thank you very much for all of you who have asked. We will be putting this on YouTube. We'll be collecting the PowerPoint and all these links that popped up throughout the chat as well. And the way we'll get that to you is by putting it in the description of the YouTube video on our Tuesday Tea. And so you'll be able to access all of these positive links and resources that way. And then we're always available to chat and talk. And I know Dr. Lieberman has a pretty open line in the world of communication as well. And I really appreciate everyone's involvement today.
Thank you, Adrian. And thank you, Molly. And thank you, Lindsay. It was just great. And thanks everybody for coming. And we have lots of other topics that we'd love to share if you need us to. We're here.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks everybody. Be safe. Take care.